Ross, hi.
Hello. Hey,
It's
John.
great to see you.
Likewise. Good to see you. I hope you can hear me. Is this audio
Here,
okay?
yeah, I hear you fine. You're not
Great.
doing any PK on your electronics there or anything, right?
Sometimes I wonder, but it's usually not me. It's somebody else.
So we just have a few minutes here to do a little bit of Q&A before we go into breakout again. But I wanted to ask you, you and I have talked a lot about things and worked with a lot similar people, same people in similar
Mhm.
situations. I'm wondering what made, with all of the different random number generators and random event generators, Oscillaron and TrueReg, what made you think to create your own piece of equipment for this?
Yeah, it was a kind of a long, winding road for this thing. I really got started in it by trying to just come up with ways to measure torsion. And, I saw some reports about maybe Quartz was involved in a torsion measurement device or whatever. And I was just experimenting and accidentally discovered that that particular configuration in a metal box made an air ionization chamber, and I was picking up muons. And so by the time I realized what I was doing, we'd already run several PK trials, so to speak. I had seen uh, healers. I just run a few sessions with healers, and it seemed like those events, whatever they were that we were seeing, changed significantly during a healing session. And I should also say, Joe McMonagle did a remote viewing that just kind of blew our socks off of that box in the DOPS lab. He did it from down in his house near Monroe Institute. And while he was doing that, the event counts changed as well. So, that just launched a whole basically attempt to see what was going on, and then I got into working with the folks at Monroe. And
So working with the folks at Monroe. Um,
yes,
do you see why do you see this as a different audience than working with like university students? And why would you focus on the people at Monroe?
well, it really started because Joe Gallenberger said, "Oh, you're doing some PK work, come down," and I realized that's a self-selected group there. People going to that MC Square program, they've either had PK experiences or they're very interested in it. So it's a really good population to work with. And what we did was we set this up as a screening event, so to speak. So we were looking for people that might be affecting these sensors, and then we would invite them over to DOPS to do the 128 channel. And that's a whole different study and whatnot. Um, so basically, the Monroe Institute's right down the road from us. It just offers us an incredible opportunity to work with people who, as I say, it's a self-selected population of people who are having experiences
Mhm.
and are there for a week, in these programs. It's a perfect setup.
That's wonderful. Yeah, it is. It is really a great way to have a sample available to you. And we're
Yeah.
always looking for consistent results. And these people are training to try to get consistent results.
Yeah, and if we had another hour or two, I could describe a few things I saw down there. They're very talented people that come through Monroe. It's very interesting.
Well, we don't have an hour yet, but maybe in some of the breakouts you might have some time. So I'm going to read this next question here. It says, you mentioned that quartz is dielectric. Oops, it just slid off the screen. Hold on a sec. You mentioned the quartz is dielectric, but it's also piezoelectric, right?
Yeah.
Do you think this has anything to do with the function of your sensors?
No, actually, the piezoelectric part, these are natural quartz crystals that are cut into half-inch cubes. And the natural piezoelectric part actually gives us an indication of when there's physical movement, somebody stomping on the floor or whatnot. It makes it an extremely different looking signal. I think I showed a little bit of that on one of the slides, um, as opposed to the muon effect, the air ionization. So essentially, originally the quartz was being used because I said I was trying to chase after torsion fields. And then I realized, quartz is a great, as I said, dielectric. It's an insulator. You'd want very low leakage when you're trying to pick up air ionization. So it's probably one of the best things to use for that. Maybe you could use just straight glass. But the other aspect of it too, which I think is kind of important, is that it's so easy to say to folks, there are half-inch quartz cubes inside this box. Those are your PK targets. Go for those. And people like quartz crystals, so they can identify with that. And so it's all those things together.
Yeah, and if you made them purple and you said go for the purple quartz crystals, they'd be even more excited about it. Um,
The possibilities are endless here.
so there are some other questions, but I want to get in one more question before we break here, because we're going to have you move into one of the other rooms after the session's over here. But you're working with Monroe right now. Are you interested in working with other This is the question that came. Are you interested in working with other organizations as well? And can you talk a little bit about what you're planning for newer studies or for your next studies?
Sure. Well, we're always interested in working with organizations, networking, yes, that's definitely so. And future plans, we've got a lot of things. I'm now working part-time at Monroe as well as my main job at Dobbs. And we've got some research projects that we're launching. I thought it was really interesting actually in the previous presentation here talking about electrostatic fields, because we're doing some electrostatic field measurements around people's bodies. This is not projecting a field anywhere, but it's basically a replication of Elmer Green's research at Manninger Institute, where they were seeing unexplained high voltages around some people, especially healers, in a carefully controlled, electrically insulated environment they called the copper wall. So we built a copper wall booth at Monroe, and we're doing some studies with that. We're doing studies on the effects of audio. Got another one looking at the differences in EEG with people who are successfully hitting the target in a remote viewing task versus totally missing it. Stuff like that. We got a bunch of stuff cooking away at Monroe right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting stuff. I've heard some of the details of the copper wall experiment. There's really interesting things going on. Always good to hear what you're working on, Ross.